Good afternoon, everybody. Woo! Okay, sit down, shut up. It's me time. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, listen. Okay, elephant in the room. Let me address it. I'm wearing a push-up bra. I know. I'm sorry. If you're thinking I'm unusually sexually attracted to her today, I'm aroused, well, don't worry. You're not ovulating. I just look incredible. Anyways, with that said, why am I wearing a push-up bra? Because I found it in the back of my closet, okay? I didn't even know I had this. But, okay, brief trigger warning. I'm going to talk about weight for 3 seconds and then I'll shut the fuck up about it, I promise. And I'm going to try not to say anything crazy. But you guys know, I've talked about this publicly before, that I've struggled with weight loss because I was, at one point in my life recently, extremely stressed. But it's not even that recently. It's nearly a year ago that I was deeply stressed. And I have been struggling to put back on the weight. I don't know why. I think I just fell into sloppy eating habits. I just wasn't eating enough. I wasn't eating the right things. And one thing about me is my entire family is we are naturally very, very, very petite. I despise it. I have hated it my entire life. I feel not skinny, but scrawny. And there is a big distinction between the two. And despite what people on Twitter will say, I genuinely have never struggled psychologically with eating. I have never been inclined toward that. I just, unfortunately, naturally very small, and I don't like it. And lately okay, do you want to know what actually happened to make me go, okay, fuck this shit? I was laying in bed and I had an itch on my butt cheek. And so I went to itch my butt cheek and I was like, wait, where's my butt cheek? Wait, guys, where's my butt cheek? And I was like, oh my God, I don't have a butt cheek. And I was feeling it and I was like, I'm feeling it right now on camera. I was like, that's fucking crazy. Where is it? I got up. I stood up. I went to the mirror. I turned around and I was like, oh my God, my butt is gone. Who took it? Me. I took it. So I made a meal plan that same day. I went to the grocery store, Sprouts, my grocery store of choice. And I was like, okay. And since that day, which was a couple of weeks ago, I have been prioritizing mealtime like no other. And I have managed to put back on a bit of weight for the first time in a long time, and I'm thrilled with it. And so to reward myself for having tits and ass, I put on a push-up bra. Okay, is that so wrong? But anyway, that's the point. I got tits and ass. Okay, so listen, if you're very observant, you'll notice that it's now nighttime. Bitch, if you could see what's just transpired in my life, you would lose your fucking mind. I have been, if you could see what has played out in my life over the last 5 fucking hours, you would lose your minds. I'm about to lose my mind. It is 25 minutes past midnight right now, and I am still filming this godforsaken podcast. Guys, I started at 2 p.m, and I have been up, and I've probably done 10,000 steps just going from this car to inside my house. I've had the busiest day, and I can't tell you any of the stuff that's just transpired, but I'm losing my mind. And I filmed this podcast 3 times over because my camera kept dying, and it's literally been a charade. Either way, can't feel my tits. This push-up bra has been on all day and there's no blood going to my chest. But we're going to talk about why is no one fucking anymore? And I hear you yell, but Madeline, what do you mean? People are fucking. I'm fucking, my friends are fucking, I don't see anyone not fucking. Well, to that, I serve you this chart. Okay, it goes sexlessness by time and age, and it's going exponentially up. And I know it caught me by surprise as well, because I thought everyone was on their worst behavior, but apparently not. And the reason that I have this chart for you today, which I will get my magician to overlay it so you can see that I'm not lying, but the reason I'm giving you that chart, Kay, is because I have recently felt the need to make a vow of celibacy. And what's crazy about me saying that is I don't even have that much fucking sex. I don't. I tend not to really be sexually attracted to someone unless I have an emotional attachment to them, which I rarely have. Listen, it only goes for men, because I will have sex with a woman 3 minutes after meeting her if she'll let me. But when it comes to men, I don't want to see all that, respectfully, because I don't even want to know you have a penis. Listen, leave that shit at home. I've said it before, but to me it's so crazy because I don't even like when a guy I'm platonically friends with reminds me that he has a dick on him. When we're in casual conversation and they mention their balls, take it back. And to think that men urinate in the workplace and they see their wiener is so gross. Because the one wonderful thing about being a woman is, and it may not be wonderful depending on how you feel about it, but we don't really see our vaginas on the day to day, like, unless you look, because it's like kind of in a part of your body that is just like not as visible as a penis, right? Like, it's not so much in your face. And so it's always crazy to me that like men just see their genitals like 20 times a day if they're peeing, you know? It's like, it's gross. Anyway, I have been thinking about why is the attitude around sex changing in my life, but also like I feel like it's changing substantially socially. So number one, I think it's the obvious one of people en masse are struggling financially, I think. And if you're not making enough money to afford the basic necessities, you're also not going to be going out drinking because that shit is expensive. It costs money to buy alcohol, it costs money to go out. If you're not going out and you're not drinking and you're not going to these like social environments, you're not going to get drunk and you're not going to hook up, and you're just, even if you don't drink, you're going to have less instances where you meet new people, because I think for most people in my age range at least, the main place that you meet people is like a bar or a club. And I don't think I'm like the only one who's gonna, unless you guys will have a secret club I don't fucking know about, in which case that is not nice. If people are doing that less, things start to make sense, but I actually think it goes much deeper than that, and I will elaborate. I think that there is an elephant in the room which is not deep enough, especially by younger girls, and this is gonna come off a little bit strong, and also kind of gross, sorry, but listen, I genuinely believe that the fact that men's pleasure so often is the focus when it comes to sex, especially casual sex, is one of the most understated atrocities, okay? Why do I think that? I'll tell you. I genuinely think it's fucking crazy for a man to ask a woman after they have just had sex the question, did you come? Don't let a man ever ask me that question, because I will tell them about themselves so fucking fast. Here's the thing, okay, as a woman loving women, I know what it sounds like and looks like and feels like when I'm sorry this is gross, when a girl comes, okay? I know what it's like, and it's not, first of all, it's not that hard, but that's for another time. When they claim that it's confusing and difficult, kill them. But back to my point, it is quite abundantly clear, okay, when a girl has a good time. I know you know that as a man, because I know you watch porn, and I know you just know that. I know you do. Alright? I know it, and you know it. Speaking to you man to man right now, it's quite obvious. Would we not all agree? Okay? And to have the nerve to ask that question signifies two things to me. One, you already know I didn't come, right? You already know. If I didn't come, you know I didn't come. And so you asking that question to me feels like manipulation, because you're trying to convince me that you are invested in any way, shape or form in my pleasure by feigning concern over whether or not I came. Let me tell you something about yourself, okay? You are weird and selfish and probably gay. And I'll tell you why. To engage in the act of sex with another person and have no regard for how good it feels for them, to me, removes the body from my list and only means one thing. We did not have sex. You did not fuck me. You just had a wank. Unfortunately, it was inside of me. But babe, that was a wank. There is nothing to constitute real sex, okay? Because, and I'll take you back to an age-old question that I asked myself as a willow when I was a teenage, when I was but a wee girl, of what constitutes sex. Because I had understood in my upbringing that sex was penis and vagina, right? I'm sorry, it's such a graphic episode all of a sudden, but that's what I understood sex to be. And when I lost my virginity, I lost it to my girlfriend at the time, and I was really struggling to understand, at what point do I lose my virginity? At what point have we gone from messing around to having full-blown sex? And I couldn't really find an answer on the internet, because all the definitions involved penetration, and she did not have the means, you know? And so, for me, sex is not defined by penetration alone. It's really not. Because there is no one firm definition that you can give to intercourse. Because it looks different between different people. And I decide that if you didn't make me come, here's the thing. Small distinction, if you tried and it just wasn't working, props to you, I'll let you off. If you didn't try, we didn't have sex. You had a wank. Get the fuck out of my bedroom. And I think that it is understated how actually crazy that behavior is. Because what about her as a man made you feel that your sensation and your experience came so far above hers? Like, it's just so weird to me. And it's like, as someone who loves women and finds them very attractive, I love to see them have a good time. And that's like the best part of sex for me if I'm sleeping with a girl. So I struggle to comprehend how a man who is supposedly so attracted to women doesn't want to see that. You understand what I'm saying? And it's important. I'm now just making a case for why you should never fake an orgasm, because these men need to be held to account, because I'm sick of it. I am sick of women learning to undermine their pleasure, their bodies. I'm sick of seeing younger girls think it's indicative of love or care if they have a partner who is happy to allow that experience to play over time and time again. It's not okay. It's not fine. Like, it's not. And again, I will make the distinction. If he tried, it's different, you know? But sometimes shit's just not working. Sometimes they fucking suck. It's more about the intention for me and how mutual the experience was, because I don't think we had sex. I think you had sex, and that isn't a thing. You can't have one-sided sex, so I can only call that a wank. And I hate you, and you need to leave. So what was my point there? I don't know. Oh, my point was, I think that there are so many faults in... My necklace is wrong. I think that sexual relationships, particularly hookup culture type of relationships, have so many flaws that it's exhausting to even toy with the idea of indulging for what should be leisure and release and something that feels good and rejuvenating. More often than not, I think for women, for girls, it is an experience that may leave them feeling worse than they fucking started. We now give all kinds of reasons to sex and meanings and different power dynamics, and this is where I fucking struggle. One of the things that I've witnessed, the vulnerability that is having their sense of self-worth or their any kind of sense of worth and whatever it may be diminished to some degree by sexual interactions that they've had with men. And let me give you an example. They're talking to a guy, they meet a guy, things are going really well, and it gets to the point pretty early on where they hook up. A lot of the time, the boy who was previously treating this girl quite nicely pulls away entirely and sort of treats her very indifferently. And that can drive a bitch insane. It really can, because you can only logically assume that you did something between then and now that directly impacted the way they feel about you. And when they don't tell you what that thing is, you will drive yourself insane trying to figure it out. Now, I once listened to a podcast, and I can't think of who it was by right now, but it was this guy, and he was interviewing someone. I don't know if she was a psychologist or a biologist or something, but she was basically saying that she had studied the neurotransmitters and hormones and chemical reactions that happen in men and women respectively when they are falling in love and having sex. And she said that with men and women, the process chemically is entirely different, and when men are creating a bond with someone and then they have sex too soon, something is released and it kind of destroys the foundation that was being built and makes them want to pull away. With women, sex increases that bond and makes them crave more intimacy. So after you guys fuck for the first time and you're thinking, great, let's cuddle, he's thinking, I have to go. And it's dubbed post-nut clarity, right? Disgusting term, by the way. Hate. And whilst there may be genuine and valid chemical experiences that a majority of the male population experience and the majority of the female population experience based on your biological makeup that will affect the way that you fall or do not fall in love and the way that you experience repulsion after sex or not, is what it is. And I don't know if this lady was right or if it was a theory or if it was an observation. I don't know, and I can't speak to that too much. But if it's a fact, it's a fact, and that's fine. And I think we can all do well to learn more about biology and chemistry and how these things interact with our emotional experiences, because honestly, I hate to think about love as being chemical, because like, no, I want it to be magical. I hate that it's not entirely like my choice, and like I just wish it was made of magic and not chemicals. That to me that feels so sad. But anyway, off the point. But regardless of whether that anecdote about hormones and chemicals is true, my problem lies with the way that men so often then treat the girl in question after they feel the need to retreat. Because if you feel the need to retreat, if you fucking had sex too early and whatever it is makes you now want to pull away, I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong for that. What I will tell you you're wrong for is having no compassion for how that's going to make her feel. As women specifically, and again, I'm only speaking from things that I have like experience with, I think that for me, I never, and I don't know how I got so lucky, and I don't mean to flex, but I never felt a connection between my sense of self-worth and the way that someone treated me romantically or sexually. And I don't know how I got so lucky, because this wasn't a philosophy I had or a choice that I made. It just has never affected me in that way. I think that if we, for example, go on a date and you choose to not see me again, why would that affect me personally when you've met me one time? If we have sex and you pull away and suddenly you're being cold with me, I might be sad because I liked you and I wanted it to work out, but I'm certainly not going to sit and wonder what I did wrong, unless I did something fucking crazy in the bedroom, and then I might think, oh, was it that? But generally, I acknowledge that these things, I think it's just in my makeup that I do not feel that it detracts from me in any way when someone treats me badly or dismissively or just doesn't want me. And even if they do it kindly, it doesn't tend to affect me deeply. However, I know for a lot of my friends that is not the case, and it has a profound impact on the way that they view themselves for at least a short period of time. One thing that I will briefly touch on just quickly while we're on the topic is, one thing I have to consciously practice is not just from an ego standpoint, but from a actual valid sense of self-worth and sense of personhood. It's very important for me in my specific job to never take too much to heart people en masse telling me that they like me. Because on a good day, I receive a lot of that, right? And that's what my livelihood depends on. And also my fulfillment in my work is with people somehow, somewhere, pulling something positive from something I say or do. Whether it's just a giggle or whether it's a fucking philosophy, I don't know. That makes sense, right? And so, on a good day, people will tell me that they like me, that they think that I am a good person. And it became very important to me very early on in this current career to not bring that home with me at the end of the day, because as much as they can tell me that, tomorrow they may tell me that I am the worst person they've ever seen, and that I am wrong and mean and stupid, and whatever else it may be. And you cannot allow external influences and external validation to create an inflated belief that you are good, and equally, you cannot allow it to go the other way either. Because if you allow it to go one way, you are vulnerable to it going the other. If you allow yourself to believe that you are good because everyone admires you, then you can also allow yourself to believe that you are terrible because now everyone fucking hates you, and neither will ever be true. You will always be exactly who you were before anyone told you anything about yourself. You will always be faulted, you will always be multifaceted, and you will always be right and wrong, and you will have the capacity for good and evil, and you are made up of the decisions that you make and the behaviors you exhibit and the words that you speak and the intentions that you harbor. And no external words should be able to grossly skew your self-perception, if that makes sense. And it sounds harsh to suggest that no one allows themselves to make a compliment, make themselves feel good. But remember, I'm mostly just talking about myself in the extreme right now, which is that I am often flooded with opinions on myself from people outside of myself. And so it made it extremely clear to me in a extreme way early on, and I think it was Harry Styles who said this, and it stuck with me, and he was like, people can tell you're the best person in the world, and people can tell you the worst person in the world, and none of it is ever going to be true. And that fucking resonated, bitch. And I think that because I have had to get quite good at reinforcing and rechecking that belief structure in myself to make sure that I am not overly onboarding anyone's opinion of me into my identity or using it as a means of validation beyond what is good or natural or organic. I've also become extremely resilient to, I think, rejection in sex and dating. Because once you really accept that most people, 90% of the time, people's actions and behaviors and decisions have absolutely nothing to do with you. Now, the reason I say 90 is because sometimes you can be wrong, okay? Sometimes we can be wrong and we can do weird shit and we can do wrong shit and bad shit and say the wrong thing. And sometimes people will decide, based off something you did or said, that they don't want to see you again. And that's okay. Or that they don't want to be your friend. And that's okay. I'm not saying that these things aren't possible. And I'm not saying self-reflection isn't necessary. I'm saying that being in a position where someone's rejection of you, especially after you've had sex with them, when that is able to knock you and your sense of self quite violently, you're in a bad place. And I think it's a place where a lot of young women are in. And I think part of the reason is because, well, first of all, when you have sex with someone, it's incredibly intimate, even if it's a fucking hookup, and it hurts for someone that you shared that, even if it's brief, intimacy with, to have them reject you. Of course it's gonna hurt. That's fine, and it would hurt me too. But I think that another part of it is the overemphasis that society places on male validation as a whole. I think historically, and until right now, and into the future, of course, the emphasis on male validation is fucking ingrained into us. And whilst it may be ever shrinking, at least in the UK and the US, whilst it may be on a downward decline, male validation has been a means of survival for women pretty much since the dawn of time, as they have historically held all of the power financially and in terms of knowledge and in terms of the law, everything. Like, they've held everything, right? They were in charge of everything, okay? And until, what was it, the 50s, women couldn't have a bank account? Like, this shit is new. Like, we are living through the first generations of women who do not have to live with a man. Like, just think about that for a second, because it's very easy to hear the rhetoric online about fucking third wave feminism and think, I don't want to seem dramatic and blah blah blah. And I see that a lot. I don't know if you guys agree, but I think it's easy to think that these issues are less prevalent than we think, because we were born into a world where that's just the norm. Of course I can work, of course I can earn money, of course I can vote. But the thing is, it doesn't start with you, and you exist in the context. You think you just fell out of a coconut tree, bitch? Your mother and your grandmother and your great-grandmother all, can you tell it's 1 a.m? They all needed men to get by, okay? Financially, politically, to have a house, to have everything, to have a life. They needed a man. They had to have a man. And if not your mother, certainly your grandmother. If you're not your grandmother, by some miracle, your great-grandmother, for sure. It's not that far away. And although that is not the political climate you were born into, most likely, unless you're really old, the values and the ways of thinking and the everything that is passed down by your maternal lineage is going to have remnants of what is now called male validation, and a chronic need for male validation, because that was the only way they could have survived. I think that there is so much reasoning behind why male validation is still so prevalent, because it was, like I said, the means of survival. For most of history, it has been the lifeline for women and the only proximity they can gain to the outside world and to any level of power is by their proximity to men. And it makes sense then when you see young girls and women as a whole base so much of their sanity over the approval of a man. And so you see why hookup culture is fucking damaging to women, because more time than not, men do just want to fuck and then they want to leave. And whether that's because their wiring is different and they just can do that, or whatever it is, it's really easy to get caught up in the emotions of that. And I think that being conscious of that is important. And I think that one thing I find despicable is when boys use the phrase pick me to describe a girl who is strictly obeying the laws of what will get a boy to like her, whether it's, you know, pretending that she fucking loves football when she doesn't, or whether it's, you know, dressing in a certain way to get boys' approval. And the thing is, the saddest thing is, a lot of the time boys see through it. They know when something is not authentic. Because as much as they'll have you believe otherwise, they're deeply intuitive beings, because they're humans, and they can tell when something is inauthentic and has an ulterior motive. And what I find sickening is they turn it around so quickly. Like, just 2 seconds ago, women were, you know, employing a very smart survival tactic, which was proximity to men, despite them wanting other things. And times changed, but it takes cultures a long time to unlearn things. And so now you have young girls, in my view, doing too much to please men, and they don't even know why, but they place so much value on it, and then men turn around and laugh at them for being a pick-me. Have some fucking empathy, will you? And I don't know how I've got onto this whole rant about fucking pick-me's, but every behavior has its root. And if you can identify the root, and it is something that is not evil, then you should have compassion for it. And it annoys me that no one ever stops to fucking think. I'm mostly speaking more about the younger girls that don't yet have the perspective or knowledge to do anything else. Anyway, I've got off topic. So basically, I think that as people become more socially conscious, which I think things like TikTok are aiding rapidly, and look, TikTok has its faults, for sure, but I think that one of the better things and great things that it does help is this, like, rapid growth in, like, social awareness and cultural awareness and awareness of all kinds. So I'm not surprised that people don't want to fuck, because when you start, it's kind of like you reach a point of no return, I think, as a woman, or as anyone who is just able to see patterns and able to recognize repetitive behavior and is sick of it and doesn't want to do it, doesn't want to partake in it. And I think that right now we live in a time, unfortunately, where the autonomy, specifically of women's bodies, seems to be everyone's favorite topic of debate, and it seems to be debated in rooms where women as a whole do not have any control. And it is something that all women are acutely aware of, right? And even if you live in a place where that is not affecting you negatively, you are still aware of a certain shift of attention onto you and your body and your ability to make your own decisions and your right to make your own decisions pertaining to your body. And I think that a very understandable and natural response for that is just to not want to even share your body with anyone, regardless of how progressive their political views are. It goes beyond that. I think it's a sense of, like, very innate and very subconscious self-protection. Like, I empathize with the feeling of just wanting to build, like, a fucking steel enclosure around myself at times and let no one in. And back to my point that I actually tried to make an hour ago of, I don't personally feel that my power and my self-worth are closely intertwined, or intertwined at all, with who I fuck, or how they treat me after the fact. If you treat me like shit after we have sex, you're a piece of shit, and it's nothing to do with me. Point blank fucking period. If you decide that we're not a good match, and you don't want to speak or hang out or have sex again, respect. That's fine. Again, I'm just not gonna take it personally because I have enough evidence that that's not a reflection of me being crazy, unless it is, and in which case, also, period, you're a smart one. But, like, what I'm saying is, I have a good sense of self, and therefore I don't find that it's too easily rocked by people that I encounter sexually and romantically. Do you know what I mean? And my point with saying that is not just to flex, okay, although partly, but my point with saying that is, lately I have felt that if I have sex, and mind you, like, sex is not that big of a thing for me. Like I said earlier, I don't indulge really outside of relationships. It's just not for me, but I have done, and even though it's not top of mind for me lately, I've been like specifically repulsed at the idea of doing it, and not in the sense that it's not physically appealing to me, or that there's not a cute guy that I've got my eye on, or a cute person I've got my eye on, because there is. I have a big crush on someone right now, and it's ruining my life. Oh, it's ruining my life. Guys, so serious for one sec. It's ruining my life. And despite that, I can't think of anything worse than sleeping with them. And I've never been in this position before, and I don't understand it. And I keep trying to put a theory to it. Like, it's not just that I don't want to have sex with the person I have a crush on. It's that I don't want anyone to touch me, and not in the way that the physical act repulses me, but something deep in my soul says no. And I've never felt that way before, because usually sex is very like physical for me. Unless I'm dating or in love with the person, I guess it's my PCOS. I got loads of testosterone. I am very capable of having sex just be sex. And it's not something I enjoy, but it is something I'm capable of. Like, it's in my makeup to not be attached, or not need attachment, or not need anything emotionally from a person to have sex with them. It won't bother me. I just don't like it, but it won't bother me. Does that make sense? So to now be in a position where the idea of sex is actually terrifying to me, and repulsive, and invasive, and feels like a loss of power, is very confusing to me, because I don't equate sex to power or a lack thereof. I don't equate someone's fucking body count to have any attribute to the kind of person they are, or whether they are good or bad, or whether I don't think it says anything about a person other than their sex drive. That's what it connotes for me. Nothing else. So why now do I suddenly feel so vulnerable when I think about having sex? And I can't figure it out. I hate that I'm coming to you with no solution and no think piece, because usually when I film these podcasts, it's like I've already gone through the experience and come out the other end, and I have something to like tell you. When I'm speaking right now, I'm speaking with questions because I don't know what's going on, but I'm live time trying to figure it out, and I'll let you know if I get there. But I think it might also just be something to do with, for the first time in my life, I'm actually doing a big girl thing, which is living somewhere where my mum is not down the road. I'm in a new country. And on top of that, forgive me for saying this, but I'm single. And I never thought I would be someone to feel this way. I didn't even know this was an option to feel this way, but something in me, and I don't know if this is a horrible thing to say, feels a lack of protection, and a lack of, not a lack of, but a possibility for a lack of integrity, because I don't have these massive kind of pillars holding me up. And I didn't even know that that was a thing until recently. I didn't know that was a way I could feel. But I think something about coming to LA and realizing that a lot of the time when I'm around people who know me or know my friends or whatever it may be, in those situations, a lot of the time people will know your relationship status, and therefore they will know that I am single. And I don't know if it's something about that that is freaking me out. I feel, for the genuine first time in my life, I feel vulnerable. And I've said this before. I've said this a couple podcast episodes ago. I was talking about how the distance from my family and my community that I grew up with has made me feel alone for the first time in my life, and made me crave what I was talking about a couple weeks ago, was that I was craving connection of any kind, and I was going on dates and I was trying to meet people, even though I'm not in a place in my life where I can have that or want that. But I was doing it because I felt shockingly alone, even though I have friends here. And then once I realized the root cause of my feelings, I decided to actively stop going on dates and stop trying to fucking meet people, because I was like, okay, well, this is not the solve. I just have to feel this, and it's going to be unpleasant, but that doesn't mean you have to escape the feeling. Sometimes it's okay to just sit with it. And so I decided to sit with it. And now it's almost taken a turn where it's like that same loneliness and that same exposed and vulnerable feeling that I have here without my mom and my family and my friends makes me want to hide away, because rather than go out and meet people like it was previously making me feel, now it's more of like they almost felt like my protectors in a way, and they weren't, but that's the loss I feel, I think, of people to protect me from ill-intended bad people who I don't always have the best discernment to identify. And also, when you're around a lot of people that know you very well, be it your family or your relationship or your friends, especially friends who have been in your life for a long period of time, which was the case for me back home, there is a level of accountability that you are permanently held to discreetly. By that I mean, if you just rock up tomorrow with a new personality, people are going to notice that you have gone through something overnight, and they are going to ask you, hey, what the fuck? And it holds you to a level of integrity of character, because people will call you out on change if it's negative change, and if the change seems like it's coming too quickly. For example, one time, my best friend Millie sat me down and was like, hey babe, ever since you got into this relationship, you have become someone that you would hate. I don't know if you've noticed, but you're a bad friend, and you are becoming someone who doesn't act in alignment with your previous morals. You don't like who you are right now, don't know if you know. And it's that kind of thing that makes me feel stable in life, because it assures me that it's like a safety net. Like, I might go crazy tomorrow or tonight, but someone's gonna see that and they're gonna tell me, hey babe, you went crazy. And that makes me feel safe. And I still have that, because I still have all my friends and my family, but it's just, bitch, I feel so far from home. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. And now I'm just rambling about issues that don't affect anyone except me, so I should shut the fuck up, because this is a podcast and not a diary. But I don't know. I feel intimidated and exposed by something, and I feel that if I was to sleep with someone in a casual manner, or even in an intimate way, that I would lose power. But I don't know where that power is. I can't identify, I can't find it. I don't feel that I even have any power to lose. And I've never equated sex with power before, but I feel it right now. I think it's possible, at least for me, and maybe for other people, that somewhere along the line, I have developed an unhealthy relationship with sex due to being around men who view women in an overly sexual way. And there is a massive distinction between men who love sex and love women. Do you, King? Fully. Be respectful and do you. There's a huge distinction between that, which I think is fine, and men who view women as sexual beings before anything else. Without bothering you with the specifics of why, or giving examples, I think that I, unfortunately, spent a lot of time around men who were point blank derogatory towards women. And I made the mistake of thinking that this wouldn't have an impact on me. I have found myself slipping into unhealthy perspectives around sex and what that says about me as a person. And I think that I disagree with the notion that your body count has anything to do with your self-worth, like I said earlier. But that doesn't exempt me from, unfortunately, still feeling a level of shame about this stuff. Even as I'm talking about it on this podcast and admitting, oh yeah, I've hooked up with people, there's a level of like pain in my spleen when I say that, because I can't take it back once I publish this. And I then have to face shame. And I think that that is genuinely really sad. I also think that it's important as a woman to, not in the lens of shame, but in the lens of self-protection, understand the power that you do have when it comes to how you engage with the world in a sexual way. By having a conscious knowledge of how much men pay for being in the proximity of a woman, let alone having sex with her. When you realize just how deep this stuff goes, and the way that a lot of men, not all of them, of course, but many of them, view women, view sex, and view you as a result of it, I think it's important to be aware of those things. However, I think it's hard to be aware of them and not take them on personally. And I think that's where I'm getting a bit stuck recently, is I'm becoming aware, I think because I'm alone and I'm single, in a new place, I'm becoming aware of how I am perceived and becoming aware of the emphasis on how you're supposed to conduct yourself sexually in the world, and what's an acceptable body count and what isn't, and what's acceptable to do and what's not. And all of it just feels, to me, unpleasant. And I don't think I'm making any sense, TBH. I don't. But my actual point was, I'm wondering if it's necessary to claim celibacy, even though I probably wouldn't end up having sex in this same time frame anyway. Say I designate a year to celibacy, I could call it by any other name, bitch. It's just still not gonna be having sex. And it's just like, okay, if I call it that, then it feels intentional, and then it feels like growth. Do I have to do something so, for some people drastic, for me maybe drastic, as intentional celibacy for 12 months in order to fix what has gone wrong somewhere down the line in terms of how I view myself and how I respect myself and how I take on other people's perspectives of me? Is like, and it begs the same question as like, is suffering necessary to enact real change in your personhood? I don't know. It feels it. Because I often agree with the stance of like, you know, change comes from discomfort. Yeah, in a lot of cases that's true. I think that a lot of good change comes from discomfort, whether that's the discomfort of moving somewhere new, of switching friend groups, of changing your entire fucking career because, hey, it didn't feel good, or whatever it is. I think a lot of times change does come from discomfort, and a lot of change and learning comes from pain. But I think the whole notion as a general statement that in order to have change, you have to experience discomfort, I disagree with, and I'm trying to unlearn it. I'm trying to unlearn the belief that discomfort is necessary. But maybe that's futile because I'm uncomfortable anyway, so what's the point? It's so late, and I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I don't know. But I think that a lot of the time previously, for me and for others, when you seek out sex in a casual way, or casual dating in any form, you more often than not are just seeking closeness, right? Like, it's not crazy to want a companion in this world. It's quite normal. And I think that if what you're seeking is closeness, and all you're getting is a shitty fucking dinner, if that, maybe a couple of hours in their room, or whatever it may be, you're gonna be disillusioned pretty quickly. And you're gonna learn that casual dating is not gonna supply you more often than not. And obviously there's exceptions. But I think that you learn in your early adulthood that more often than not, these things aren't going to fulfill the need of closeness or intimacy. And ultimately, the most you can really hope to gain from a one-night stand or from casual anything is to, how do I say this eloquently, to nut. And as I said before, it's all too common that I think for a lot of women, that is not achieved and it is not prioritized. And so, of course, by the time you hit fucking 21, you're not interested in doing it anymore because you know what's going to happen 9 times out of 10 is you're just going to be disappointed. You're not going to achieve the closeness. You're not going to fill the void, and you're not even going to come. So, no, I'm not up right now, bitch. I don't know. Tell me if I'm going crazy. I think it can feel really draining when what you want is intimacy, emotional intimacy and closeness, and you're lying there with someone, even if they're humouring your vision, okay, and you're playing house. Because I've had that happen where I go on a date and we play house for a couple of days, and it's like this weird dynamic that happens sometimes, especially with women, where like you'll go on a date and you'll hang out for like 3 days, and like they're basically your girlfriend for 3 days. And then maybe you just like never hang out again. I've had that happen. And so in that case that you do achieve a level of closeness and you do get on and maybe the sex is good, but you're laying there next to someone who just ultimately, you know, you don't want to date, and it's fun in the moment, but you know it's just a moment, and you know, I'm not gonna pursue this past the next 24 hours, say, or past the next time I get fucking drunk and call you. There is a deep loneliness in that feeling, and there is a deep exhaustion in that feeling. And ultimately, nothing can simulate connection other than real connection. And so I think once you try these things out once or twice, you just get disillusioned too quickly, bruh. I'm telling ya. Guys, it's crazy because whenever you're watching this, it's probably like a reasonable hour of the day or my hunchback of the day or the evening. For me, it's like literally 2 in the fucking morning. Basically, well, it's 1:55 a.m. as I'm filming this. And, well, to cut a long story short, I don't think that people fucking less signifies that people want it less. I think it signifies a collective sigh. That's how it feels. Because when you are faced with a lot of truth, as we are on TikTok, and I keep bringing TikTok up, but it's like there are so many strong voices on TikTok that point out tough truths to us about the world we live in, about the culture we live in, and about the ways in which we are treated that maybe we didn't even notice were wrong, and now we've been told, oh, this is really wrong, and you think about it and you go, yeah, that is wrong. I didn't even notice, and now no one can get past the first date without me realizing that what they are saying hints at a value system I don't want. I think as we become more conscious collectively, it makes it a lot harder to want to bang. I need to go to bed, okay? No bangy, basically. Everyone, keep it in your pants and respect yourselves. And boys, look up a tutorial on how to make her come if you don't know what the fuck and you're panicking, okay? It's not that fucking hard. Trust me. I do it all the time. Okay, I'm bored. I love you guys. It is late as fuck. What am I gonna do? I'm not tired. I am, actually. Alright. Well, I don't know if that was a really boring episode or not, but I love you guys. Oh my god, and I will see you same time, same place.